All right, welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to be talking about disabilities and housing. A lot of you guys need to know what your options are and what the rules really are for this. But before we get started, I'm going to warn you that we have a pretty powerful storms rolling through Texas right now, and there's lots of lightning. All my cats are scared, and so hopefully the video don't die on us. So that being said, the introduction is my name is Jay. I'm the owner of Section8Consulting.com. For those of you that struggle with housing and vouchers, and disabilities and other things where you're dealing with tough landlords or maybe a not so helpful housing authority, you can reach out to our company at www.section8consulting.com. Now, on to the feature, if we can keep the video live, right? Well, we have a couple of roads we can travel when you consider disabilities. So I know a lot of people end up in emergency situations and also general situations. Many of you that are disabled have already encountered very difficult systems like dealing with Social Security, Medicare, and so on. So you already understand that the federal system for just about everything is difficult, sometimes even convoluted. I think that in the situation where you ordinarily need this, the first thing you should consider are subsidies. And for many of you, you've heard of a program called Section 811. Now, I know we've talked about that briefly before in other videos, but I want to recover that. Section 811 is a program essentially that allows those that are 18 to 61 to participate in subsidized property or buildings that offer rents at a lower cost. And what I want to do today is to better help you by giving you the federal definition so we can hear it directly. So the Section 8 Project Rental Assistance Program, which is better known as PRA, and you're going to want to go ahead and do your own due diligence and research on that, provides project-based rental assistance for extremely low-income persons with disabilities linked with long-term services. So you can think of it in a way that not only does it is it inclusive of housing, that it also offers wraparound resources. I don't mean a trip to the food bank, but I mean there's other services that may have caseworkers, healthcare workers, Meals on Wheels, and other things coming to your home if you so select to have that as an option. You can certainly deny all the additional services out there to you, but that could be a potential. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the secondary option. Boy, that thunder is loud today. I know you guys can't hear it because I got a really good microphone, but it's pounding hard. So let's hope that this video stays live. So we look at subsidies. I know you heard the word project-based. It is not necessarily project-based. So those suffering with disabilities under Section 811 and also 202 programs that are seniors, you have the option of dealing with the housing authority where they may have project-based, but you could also go out and go to subsidized properties. And I want to talk a little bit about the 50-80 rule. So let's look at the median incomes for an area. If the median area income is around $100,000, then you should be at 80% at the high point, which means your highest income should be at 80,000. And then, of course, what they may consider as low income is 50% of that value, or 50,000 would put you at the lowest tier. The lower the percentage you meet on median area income, the better you're statistically going to do as an applicant. Okay. So option one is going to be the project based where the housing authority owns the building. And it's also giving you the voucher. There's what you call a private ownership or tax credit properties, which are subsidies. Now, that's a bit of a different story, just like project based, but it's owned by private individuals. And so the property would be sub-designated Section 811 by receiving federal funds and designating those units for those of you that are disabled. So where do you find those? Well, you can find them anywhere, but I would recommend you go to Affordable Housing Online as your first resource and stop. And outside of that, I think that if you have a small income, then it may work. However, we must keep in mind that medium area incomes are going to be different for every place in America. Even in the same state, some geographical areas have more money and they also have more costs, and other areas have lower costs and more money. So we've kind of covered project-based. We've covered what happens when it's not project-based, it becomes a subsidy. So we have these two here as two different roads you could travel. Then there's vouchers. Since the voucher asks you questions, the virtue of you giving your answers to the application will afford you a voucher. There's not a Section 811 voucher, okay? There's not a Section 202 voucher. They're simply you giving answers. And if your answers include that you're disclosing that you have a long-term disability or disability, then that means that they would pull funding and it would fund your voucher with the you being disabled, and you could use that. Of course, anybody with a voucher, whether you're disabled or not, can use it anywhere. So that is option or road number two. Mine, Kurt, number three, for those that need emergency housing in terms of you being disabled and the situation just destabilized and you can't afford rents, then there's a possibility of addressing the continuum of care system. It offers coordinated entry or CE. And through that, rather than you putting an ink pen to paper, filling an application, you're essentially you're having an interview. They're asking questions. You're answering those questions, and you'll qualify. You could qualify for rapid rehousing, public. I'm sorry, not. It would be rapid rehousing, public supportive housing, or emergency housing voucher. So three options under your emergency section. As a small and quick disclosure, rapid rehousing is really for those that may be disabled. Like my father was a paraplegic and he was in a wheelchair, but he worked for the State Department. So he chose on to be functional as disabled as it permitted. There are many that are disabled that cannot go out and get some fantastic job, and I get that. For those that do that, then rapid rehousing may not be a great option because it's not long term. It's up to 2 years. Permanent public, for some reason I'm struggling with the PBRs today, but one thing I want to tell you is with the project based and also the subsidy, we have a close parallel between those two and also permanent supportive housing. So through COC, they don't give it the same name, but the reality is it's very much the same thing. It's subsidized housing where they're giving you more or less a discount, okay? And that's most appropriate for those who are disabled and also seniors. So think of it as a very cool version of Section 202 and 811 wrapped together. And if you're disabled, then that may work. And now this will also in consideration of those that don't just have physical disabilities, but also mental health disabilities. Now, I want to go over some more contentious information. So we went behind three different curtains here: subsidies, project-based, vouchers, COC, and its emergency, rapid rehousing, permanent supportive housing, and then, of course, the emergency housing voucher, which anybody can literally apply for if they have an imminent situation or potential to greatly become homeless. And let me do a quick shout out while I take a quick breath. I'm having to race through this video because let me tell you, I don't have the luck of the Irish, and I'm telling you, one good lightning strike outside my window, and bam, this video is over with. I'm telling you. Share the light. Good morning. How are you this morning? Kingdom Child Moments, interesting name of the day. Taxes and Section 8. Any kind of information is much appreciated. Taxes in Section 8. I would need you to be a little bit more precise in the question there. If I know that, I might be able to make a video regarding that within a week. But I need you to be a little bit more clear about what information you're kind of seeking. I realize you're talking about taxes. C. Blanton, well for the PH. All right. So I've got some notes here, and the reason I have notes today is because I'm trying to speed through the video so we don't lose it. All right. So tenant participation and eligibility. The eligibility per household must have a qualified member of a target population that will be at least 18 years old to 62 years old. Okay. So I was wrong. I thought it was 61, but it's 62 at the time of admission. All target populations are eligible for community-based long-term care support services provided through Medicare waivers, Medicaid state plan options, and state-funded services, and have been referred through different social agencies. But you don't necessarily need a referral, okay? These are just alternatives to that. So let's talk about Medicare, Medicaid, and social references. Many of you guys that are that have mental health issues, you're going through places like MHMR or mental health, you can get referrals that way, which will make your process to get a voucher and subsidies easier. Those referrals will greatly impact how quickly or slowly you get this. And for those of you on the health side, if you're reaching out and you're dealing with doctors and different physicians, and you're dealing with a CATE or a county or state hospital, then they certainly have caseworkers that can make referrals for you that are going to be very determinant in how well you do in your ability to get a voucher or a subsidy. To be clear, The differences really are stark between vouchers, subsidies, project base, and so on. And they're stark because they all are very different processes. And, I think it's good to have that out there. And then, of course, additionally, talking about emergency situations. So, guys, one of the things I have to tell you is if you've done, like I talked with a lady today out of Lafayette, Louisiana. We did an appointment. This lady is she's 40 years she's been a nurse. She's a highly educated woman. She knows her business. She's done her due diligence. She spent a year doing research, still spinning her wheels. Guys, if you're struggling, I'm tell you like this. We deal with about 1,000 clients a year. So if you have done everything that you can and you've not achieved any type of result, or you're still trying to figure this out and your situation is getting more complicated or the timeline's getting shorter, you should reach out to a professional. Whether it doesn't have to be my office, okay? It can be anybody that's qualified to do so. But what I'm telling you is, if you truly want to understand a better way to deal with your case, you're probably going to need a little bit more than a few videos, okay? So I'm not discouraging anybody. I believe we should all attempt. Even I'm going to get out there and try to work on my car before I call a mechanic. So due diligence, but know when to call it quits, guys. Know when to throw in the towel and get with a professional, especially if this is a situation that needs to be resolved soon, okay? So I'm going to move on from that. I think that a lot of you guys need housing fairly soon, and I think that COC could be a potential option for permanent supportive housing and emergency housing vouchers. For those that have a bit more time, that still have the comfort of a couch or a loved one or friends and so on, I think that subsidies could be a good potential if you're up in age, okay, and you're not the type of person that needs to move a lot. But do keep in mind that project based and subsidies, though they're very different, the problem is when you move in that apartment, you're subsidized. When you move out, you start this whole process again. So if you're a young person with a disability, subsidies may not be ideal, because if you learn that you hate the one that bangs on your walls and you move out, then you start the whole process again. And to be honest with you, nobody really wants to put their stuff in storage and then have to wait another 6 months to apply at hundreds of subsidies and be put on a waiting list again and start the process again. So that's where vouchers come into play. And so the housing choice voucher, with inclusion of disability, which would help you be funded under the 811 or 202 program, depending on age, would be a better option, but it takes longer. On average, I know in our office working with clients, it takes us about 8 months, sometimes a year. But we've also had cases resolved within 2 months. So it's all across the map. It's like reading the weather. The one thing that's clear usually is it's never a question of whether a client would get a voucher. It's really just, will we spend a little bit of time, a moderate amount of time, or will we reach the edge of our sanity and spend almost a year working on a case? But anytime you're not spending years and decades, and I mean multiple years and decades waiting, then I think that you probably are doing pretty well, okay? So, having a disability is a big portion of all of this. I want to dispel one quick rumor, and that is that, I get a lot of clients call me, I've got a disability. I should be buried. Number one, you're not the only disabled person, unfortunately. In fact, around 89% of all people that apply for vouchers, subsidies, and so on are disabled. You're not going to be unique in that nature. That's why it's extremely important for those that are disabled, applying in a market already filled with disabled people. Some rather you got people with cancer, you got people with 2 legs and an eyeball missing. Maybe they've got one lip gone, one toe gone, and maybe they're missing an arm. And so your case is all over the map. So the important thing to do in a situation where you're competing heavily against many other people in the market for the same voucher or subsidy is distinguishing your case by having strong preferences. It means inclusions of domestic violence, inclusions of potential homelessness, inclusion of the obvious disability, extreme low income, being a United States veteran. There are many, many factors to be considered. The more of those you stack in your case, the more prominence your case acquires. Building out a good case works well. The problem I find that most people, even the highly educated ones, before they come to their office is this. They attempt to build their own cases. The problem is they don't understand code of federal regulation. So when they're describing what's acceptable as a disability, what's acceptable as a veteran, what's acceptable as a senior, there are many rules, and there are even more for those there are multi-tiers to things like domestic violence and being homeless. And so when you're building a case, sometimes you have to really work and mold it into something that's going to give you just a slice above the big herd of people. So we have a lot of disabled people on a waiting list. What we want to do is make sure the case is just strong enough to tip you above all the rest, okay? But you don't want your case to be so compelling that it would be unbelievable. And so that requires a rather good finesse and a great understanding of rules, code, federal regulation, administrative plans, policies, procedures, and dealing with housing authorities on a regular basis, okay? But also, there are many that have been able to navigate this without the assistance of anybody, just good raw intelligence and a great deal of time. So I don't want to discourage anybody from making their own attempts to do this. I'm just suggesting that at some point, you can only hold your breath and drown so long. If you're tired of drowning and you don't want to die, you don't want to spend the rest of your life trying to figure it out. Maybe consider some other options. All right. Let's go on to some more information here, and then we're going to wrap up the video because I don't want to go too far into this and technicals. I think that we're going to be covering some of the technical aspects of some of the upcoming videos. So we talked about target population, but I also want to talk about some of the subcategories: people with serious mental illness, individuals engaging in services but facing challenges due to housing instability, meaning homelessness. Stable, integrated, affordable housing would also enable individuals an opportunity to fully engage in rehabilitation, treatment, and greatly improve the prospects of their life. So quality of life factors: seeing, hearing, feeling, walking, lifting, bending, taking care of yourself, remembering to take your pills, remembering to eat your dinner, your ability to socialize, to keep good mental health, to keep good hygiene. All these things factor in to how well or unwell you do. Let's be honest, it may seem absurd to hear those things, but everybody has challenges. And the more that people that have a low income have to go through so much adversity, pressure, stress, and living on the edge or living on such a fixed income, it sometimes induces mental health and physical issues on you that you wouldn't otherwise have if you had $100,000 in your pocket. So I've seen a lot of cases where people thought they had mental health issues when in fact it was a production of simply having to live through an extremely low income situation. Drives people mad. Let's just be honest. I think a lot of people's problems are related to trying to live in a world that's funded and fueled by cash. And when you don't have a great deal of it, it can actually, well, it works on the human mind. It works on your health and your mental health, and it's a struggle. And not everybody can maintain that for decades. I think that getting 70% subsidized of your rent through a voucher, through subsidy, or through emergency housing is an opportunity to alleviate some of that pressure, because that means that what little you get, you'd only pay out 30% of that in rent, okay? That alleviates some pressure. It's not going to be a perfect world, but it's a hell of a lot better than you trying to own all the responsibility. And at the end of the day, trying to be a survivor through the system, you could end up making yourself bipolar or even schizophrenic. I think a lot of mental health issues and physical issues are induced simply by not having money. I know what it's like. I've sat around when bills were too big. There's no joy in having to sit around your house when you don't have money to do jack. Okay, let's just be honest. You do it long enough, depression can hit, and even further from that. And of course, we have these great concerns. So this is an opportunity to help alleviate the care and the rent of those, whether it be yourself, a friend, a loved one, a senior, or whether or not you're just a young person that's just been dealt a really shitty hand of life. And that's called disability. I know all about it because I dealt with my dad being a paraplegic, no use of hands or legs. You have a set of lips and you're trying to live in a world that don't give a shit. I understand that plight. I understand the difficulties of trying to stay sane through that process. And this is just one way, though it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be simple, and it won't be fast. But for those of you willing to put in the time, the effort, and not just throw up your hands, this is a possibility for you. And the only thing that I'm saying from our office is because of my own abilities, my own wisdom in this matter, sometimes we can expedite that process. So you don't have to wander around taking advice from incredible idiots that write news articles about Section 8, or maybe the entertainers all over YouTube that aren't real consultants that make these videos that want to give their, wooden nickels worth of advice without ever reading any federal codes or anything. They're just giving out, just information, right? So, look, taking an advice from somebody that's a that's spending their time at noon at being a party clown at a children's party, and the next day the channel they're now a master expert at consulting. I would be leery of those kind of people that make videos. When deal with a real consultant, deal with one. All right. So now that I've preached and I have talked and I've tried to show you the different avenues. So the application process typically is you have a pre-application where they're trying to go through a process elimination, determine whether you meet the income requirements, which are going to be different at every subsidy, housing authority, or COC program in the country. Also, they're going to be looking determinately at your disability, whether short-term and long-term. And then, of course, the third qualifying factor is other factors built in, like domestic violence, homelessness, and other factors. All of these things do factor in whether or not they're going to consider you. And of course, we have the things that always have been a burden to all of society, and that's those of us that have made a mistake and maybe committed a crime and have a record, or even those that have reached a point where the income became so low they couldn't make the note on their credit card, and now they have bad credit and things like that. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Many of you, look, no landlord's in the business of dealing with vouchers and subsidies without the expectation of people not maybe potentially having something on the record, or even in fact not having great credit. So don't think that you need to have a 900 score, or that you have to be in a situation where you've never been arrested or charged with a crime. Okay. Look, I've helped people that have been out of, and look, to give you an extreme example, we had a guy get out of federal prison for robbing banks. Within 90 days, I had that guy housed. Okay. If that guy can get a voucher, so can you. Let's just be honest. His case was simpler and faster simply because I understood how to navigate to different systems and get it. It doesn't mean that your case is going to produce in 90 days. So please don't come to me asking for unicorns, fairies, or for me to walk on water. I'm not going to do it. And I'm not Amazon. Let's be clear. We live in a world where everybody wants customer service. I get that, but I'm not here to entertain. I'm not a party clown. I'm not here to please. I'm only here to manufacture and produce results that you need in order to get housing. I don't want you to be under the delusion that your money pays for me to entertain, to please, and all that kind of stuff. You want that, go to Macy's, order you something there. Go to Amazon, and you can curse out the people on the phone you don't like there. I don't offer that kind of shit. Look, you want sugarcoat, go pay for that. If you want to deal with a real consultant, the only thing you can get out of me is just a job. Okay. It's hard. It requires participation. And I don't want any lip. Look, I'm willing to work with people. I have a wicked sense of humor. I enjoy helping people. I've done it a long time, but I'm not going to take any lip. Okay. All right. Moving on from there. So Kingdom Child's Moments. Good morning. Healing Star. Did you read about the developments with, oh yeah. I published that movie. I said movie, but I meant video about New York. 91-point indictment. C. Bland, good morning. And Healing Star goes on, I want my 2-day shipping. Man, let me tell you something, guys. If I could deliver vouchers like Amazon delivers knickknacks, then I'd be the hottest number in the U.S. I'd make more money than a prostitute on 3rd Street. So look, if you see me rolling around town with a Gucci watch made of gold and a nice car, please do take a pot shot at my car. Otherwise, I'm like the rest of you. I'm just one shade of an income above the rest of everybody else in America. I'm not independently wealthy. Everything you see back there on that shelf might look nice. I got it on sale and it took years. Okay. I'm not sitting on a stack of cash. I'm not drinking wine and smoking cigars. Don't ever think that. I probably make less than a plumber. So either I'm in this to help people or I'm not I'm doing anything. So I believe y'all with that. And I want to introduce y'all to one of my beautiful cats. This is Mr. Bunny, and we call him Bunny because when the kitten was born, he was born without a tail. He has spina bifida, and he has urinary incontinence, which makes it difficult to hold him sometimes. But he's one of the most appreciative souls that I've ever dealt with. While I do quite enjoy helping housing people, I also quite enjoy rescuing and helping cats. And so without further ado, I'll introduce you to Bunny. I got to grab him real quick. Mr. Bunny. I tell you what we're going to do, guys. I'm not going to grab him because he's kind of napping. What I'm going to do is tilt the camera that way so y'all can take a look at Mr. Bunny. Say hello, Bunny. So Mr. Bunny there, as you can see, he's wet around the bottom. He's got a little nub on the bottom. And he's like, what the hell? I didn't ask to be in this video. So he's taking his and snoozing. You'll never meet a more appreciative soul. If I had clients with the heart that this cat's got, I would probably do my job to 100. I wish every client was grateful. But you look at that cat and what it took for him just to make it, just to get through it. And he's still here, and he's not bitching, he's not moaning, he's not complaining. He's just always ingratiated. We can all learn a lesson from that. All right, guys, I've enjoyed making this video. We'll see you guys later today. I'm going to make a spicy video, and that spicy video is going to be about something interesting related to Section 8. Because not every video needs to be a teaching lesson. Sometimes we need to talk about some of the travesties and injustice that are done by housing authorities and egregious behavior, misconduct. That way you can understand that sometimes the very people you're trying to address for your needs aren't always the best people, and they don't always have your considerations in mind. So that's why it's important to touch and do a reality check, so you can proceed cautiously when you deal with housing authorities and landlords. They don't, like I said, not everybody on this planet gives a damn whether or not you live, die, make it, break it, whether you're homeless in a wheelchair, rolling down the street without food for a week. There are lots of people that just don't give a damn. Okay? Be glad there are some that do. All right, guys, I've enjoyed this. We'll see you later today.